I am a marketing manager for a company. I have a beautiful family, a husband who supports my career, and a lovely 5-year-old daughter. During the previous period, I had been busy with important projects for my company and often worked late into the night. I sacrificed my rest time in order to complete the task. In 1999, I fainted at home because of cerebral thrombosis. At noon that day, I felt a little dizzy. I thought it was only due to a brief period of fatigue. However, when I stood up to go to the bathroom, my vision began to blur. I tried to call my husband, but found that my fingers became too weak to press the numbers on the phone. With all the strength I could muster, I called the emergency number. I was unable to clearly state my symptoms, but I did my best to express my plight. I felt increasingly disoriented, but I desperately tried to stay awake. When the ambulance arrived, the medical staff quickly transferred me to a stretcher. The nurses checked my vitals and watched the data on the heart rate and blood pressure monitors to make sure I was receiving the best possible care in the vehicle. I could feel a faint vibration as the vehicle started, followed by the ambulance starting to move quickly across the road. The faint smell of antiseptic drops permeated the interior of the ambulance, which gave me an inexplicable sense of reassurance, knowing that I would receive timely care. The ambulance soon arrived at the hospital and I was brought into a room. The doctors noticed that my heartbeat was unusually slow and erratic. They quickly connected an EKG monitor. At that critical moment, my heart suddenly stopped beating. The room fell into silence and I could feel the tension pervade the room. The doctor immediately shouted, "Perform CPR." The doctor kept applying chest compressions on me. Suddenly, my body jerked violently. At this moment, it was as if time stood still. As my body jerked, I felt a strong force pulling me upward. I felt like my soul was leaving my body. Everything around me began to fade into color. As if I had entered a world of calm and emptiness. I surveyed my body as the doctors were applying chest compressions to me. The nurses anxiously passed around their tools, seemingly unaware that I had left. In this supernatural state, I felt a sense of peace. It was as if a great suction was pulling me upward, and I began to leave the Earth's gravitational range. The process was so rapid that I felt like a shooting star traveling through space, leaving a shining trajectory behind me. I realized that I was dead. Instead of fear or pain, I felt a sense of relief. I was no longer bound by my physical body, my soul was flying freely through the universe. My speed gradually slowed down, and I felt I was about to arrive at a specific place. Suddenly, I saw 6 souls ahead of me. 5 of them were male and 1 was female. Although I didn't know them, I could feel their friendliness and kindness. Their presence made me feel warm, as if I had established a special connection with them. They smiled at me with warmth in their eyes. I felt their pure energy, as if they were messengers coming to greet me, waiting for me at this particular spot. They stood together in silence, each soul radiating a unique light and energy. Even though we had never met, I could feel the tacit understanding between them. Their presence gave me comfort, and I knew that I was no longer alone in this particular location. The communication between us did not depend on words. We communicate in a much more efficient and precise way, a flawless way of communication. This type of communication is not limited by words and can directly convey thoughts and feelings. When we are close to each other, our souls intertwine and information is transmitted in a pure and direct form. I could communicate with 6 other souls at the same time, as if there was no time or space between us. Each was able to fully understand the other. We did not need cumbersome verbal expressions, thoughts and emotions were transmitted to each other in a pure way. In the course of our communication, I noticed that they seemed to have some differences. One of the men believed that I should be sent back to Earth because my time had not yet come. The woman, however, held a different view and felt that my own choice should be respected. After a few moments of silence, the woman turned to me and gently asked, "Would you like to come home with us or return to Earth and continue your life?" Her question made me feel very puzzled. Curiously, I asked her, "Do I have another home besides my home on Earth?" The woman replied, "Yes, you have a special home, a home that belongs to your soul. It exists in a realm beyond reality. That home is the harbor of your soul, it is a source of love, a place free from bondage and suffering." I replied, "I'm not so sure, I'd love to know about my other home. Can I go there and see it?" She nodded and then said, "Your choice will be yours to make. We respect your decision, and whether you choose to return to Earth or come home with us, your soul will find its way back." The woman smiled and held out her arm to indicate that I should follow them. The other 5 men also cast warm glances at me. They led me, away from my previous surroundings. Our speed began to pick up, and the scene around us changed rapidly as if in a dream. I felt like I was traveling through space at a speed beyond my imagination. Soon, we arrived at another place, my other home. Here, the air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers. The sky was like a beautiful painting. The sun shone throughout the space, warm and soft. Here, time seems to be frozen, there is no bondage, only eternal tranquility. The lake is like a mirror, and the fish swim freely in the water. Beside the lake is a soft white sandy beach, the delicate grains of sand gently glide over the toes, giving a warm and comfortable touch. People and animals live together peacefully, without fear or harm to each other. Birds chirp in the branches of trees and small animals run happily on the grass. Suddenly, a dazzling bright light appeared in front of me. In that bright light, a figure gradually emerged, wearing a white robe. The fabric of the robe looked very soft, as if it was woven by white clouds. The collar and cuffs of the robe were embellished with delicate embroidery. These embroideries shine with a faint light, like stars dotting the night sky. A thin white ribbon was tied around his waist. His hand gently rested on my right shoulder. The moment it touched me, his face began to gradually become clear. He had long, thick brown hair and bright, warm eyes. I could feel the love and care he conveyed to me, a love that was unconditional. He looked at me, and his voice was very gentle. "Son, you came here to find the answer to your heart. Now, it's time to make a choice. Do you want to go back to Earth and continue your life, or do you want to stay here?" I gazed into his eyes and felt his love and care. It was as if a force inside me was guiding me. I took a deep breath and answered firmly, "Here, I feel endless harmony and peace. I would love to stay here, but I know that I can't leave my children just yet. I want to return to Earth, to my family." He smiled and nodded, his eyes revealing joy and encouragement. "You have made a wise choice, my son. Your child needs your company and love." He went on to say that after returning to Earth, my love will always be with you. He understood my responsibility and concern, but also encouraged me to face the challenges and difficulties on Earth. He placed his hand on my head and a warm energy entered my whole body, giving me great strength and courage. "Take my blessings and go back, child." As I prepared to leave, he gently held my hand and said, "Wherever you go, you will never be alone." I smiled and nodded my head. His silhouette gradually blurred, and his love and encouragement will forever remain in my heart. I look back at this home with gratitude and hope in my heart. I knew that I would be with them again in the near future. When I opened my eyes again, my husband held my hand tightly, his face full of worry. Beside him was my lovely daughter. "Mom, you're awake." Her voice was full of joy as she reached out and caressed my cheek. Her care and companionship made me feel overwhelmed with happiness. My husband hugged me tightly and said, "Honey, do you know how worried we were about you?" I gently patted his back. My daughter's voice was choked with sobs. "Mom, I thought I'd never see you again. I was so afraid of losing you." I hugged her tightly and wiped away her tears. "Mom, we have a surprise for you," my daughter said excitedly. I looked at her curiously, and she took out a handmade greeting card and handed it to me. On the card was a picture of our family. On the 5th day after returning home, my husband was watching a documentary about Jesus. Experts had recreated the image of Jesus based on the marks on the shroud. I was amazed by the scene. Suddenly, tears flowed unconsciously from my eyes. I tried to control my emotions. Since I left the hospital, my emotions had been unstable and I often cried over little things. Every time I tried to tell my husband what I was going through, it was as if some invisible force covered my mouth. Now I am the only one who knows what I went through. My heart had stopped beating in the hospital. My soul was taken to heaven. It was a beautiful and peaceful place. The man in the white robe was Jesus. He looked almost exactly like the image on TV. Jesus sensed the despair and sadness I was experiencing in leaving my husband, and he comforted me. He also honored my choice. He made me understand that love is the bond that connects us whether we choose to return to earth or stay in heaven. However, returning to earth is not as easy as leaving it. I went through a period of pain, both physically and emotionally. Sometimes, I would wonder if I had made the right choice. Whenever I was confused, I would remember Jesus' teachings and encouragement to me. I know that I chose to return in order to be with the people I love and to fulfill my responsibility and mission. I know that no matter how difficult the road ahead is, I will cherish every moment with my family. After I gave birth to my second child, I suffered from postpartum depression. The hope of life seemed to get further and further away from me. I grew up in a single-parent household, which had a profound effect on my upbringing. When I brought my child into the world, I began to feel selfish. I began to doubt my ability to give him a happy life. The world was full of pain and hardship, and I feared I would not be able to protect him. My appetite gradually waned, I had no taste for whatever I ate, and I even lost interest in food. I also stopped feeling hungry, which made me worry about my health. I felt myself falling into a dark mood. This depression made me feel helpless and hopeless. I longed to find a way to overcome this mood and to create a positive and healthy home environment for my children. About 6 months after giving birth, something very strange happened. I saw some black figures. They were not friendly to me, but hostile and wanted to hurt me. The shadows seemed to be an accumulation of negative energy, and they could change into various different faces and try to scare me at night. I felt so scared that I couldn't sleep for several nights. I didn't know where these shadows came from or why they were bothering me. Their presence made me feel helpless and confused. My energy was completely depleted. I became very weak and tired. One afternoon, after I had successfully put my son to bed, I lay down on my bed with the intention of resting for a while. In that dazed state, I quickly fell into a deep sleep. After a while, I felt pulled by some invisible force and I started sliding downward. I fell into a dark cave, and I was immediately engulfed by a strong wave of fear. It was pitch black around me, as if I was lost in the infinite darkness. The cave was filled with an eerie atmosphere that made me feel oppressed and unable to breathe. The power of fear gripped my mind like a magic claw, and I couldn't escape its bindings. I began to wonder if I really belonged in this place. I felt that it was my own choice to be trapped in this dark cave. That I had imprisoned myself here. At that moment, I felt helpless and confused. I wanted to return to the real world where I belonged, but I didn't know how I should do it. The dark cave seemed to have no exit, everything became blurred and I completely lost my sense of direction. Suddenly, I sensed several dark shadows approaching me, and an evil aura permeated their surroundings. As they got closer, their shapes became clear. They were twisted human forms, their bodies shrouded in darkness, their eyes glowing red. They made eerie noises. I prayed that God would help me. I prayed as I overcame my inner fear. I gazed at them with a confident gaze. Gradually, I realized that the power of these dark shadows began to gradually weaken. I began to discover the power within myself. They were warm and bright. The black shadows had become weakened. The black shadows began to gradually dissipate. A bright light emerged from the darkness. It was like a hand lifting me up and carrying me out of that dank cave. I floated to the roof of my house. I saw a group of people gathered around my body. I felt curious and wondered why they were so concerned about my body. I was now filled with peace and felt very happy in my current state. I felt an overwhelming sense of relief and freedom from the pain and worries of the past few weeks in my life. In this state, I feel ready to leave. I understood that I was about to take a new journey, beyond the confines of the real world. I continued to float upward, away from my home. I came into the sky above the city, where everyone was doing their own thing. As I continued to rise, people and buildings gradually became smaller and smaller. I floated up to the clouds and decided to stop there. It didn't matter, although I didn't know why I was doing it. I just did it for the pure joy of it. I was suspended in the clouds and I felt a sense of peace and lightness. The clouds were very soft. My form became smaller and smaller until I was part of the cloud. I felt like I became the cloud and became one with it. As I continued to move upward, I could see the outline of the earth. From this height, I could enjoy a magnificent view of the earth, with its large land masses and vast oceans. I was immersed in this spectacular view. I was able to see the complete connection between every living thing and plant, which are interdependent in the cycle of life. All connections are part of God. For a long time in the past, I had been questioning everything in the world, lost in confusion and doubt. Here, those worries that once plagued me became unimportant. Every person, every creature, every plant is irreplaceable. Whether it was a tiny insect or a tall tree, I saw the interdependence and interplay between them, how important each one was. Suddenly, I felt a powerful and warm force. In front of me, an angel appeared. He radiated a shining light and was filled with pure love. The angel's presence filled me with awe and joy. He took me on a new journey. We traveled at a very fast pace. I was struck by the sight before me. I saw an endless universe of stars. These sights made me feel how small I was. This journey filled my heart with energy and light. I also saw a ladder to heaven. An old man was slowly walking up the ladder to heaven. His face was filled with peace and joy, as if he had found his home. At the gate of heaven, I saw a large group of people lining up. Each one was with joy and expectation. On both sides of the road were their loved ones. There were also many angels gathered at the gates of heaven, who were tall and majestic. They are God's messengers, responsible for welcoming those souls who arrive in heaven. Next, the angels took me into a room. I felt the unique energy of this room. The walls of the room emitted a warm glow, and mysterious symbols and patterns floated on the ceiling. This room seemed to be a reception room. Suddenly, I heard a gentle and loving voice. "My child, welcome." I had not seen God, but I knew in my heart that it was His voice. Only He could give me such a feeling. God then said to me, "My child, I love you and everything will be okay. No matter what happens, my love will never leave you." His words were filled with infinite love and forgiveness, and I could feel His care. I felt the unconditional love and acceptance of God. His love was like a gentle feather that gently wrapped around me and gave me strength and courage. I had many questions within me. I asked God why there was so much pain in my life. I hoped to find the answer. God told me that the pain in my life was not His punishment of me, but was brought on by the complexity of the world. He encouraged me to hold on to faith and hope, to believe that there is a turning point and salvation in adversity. He assured me that His love and strength would always be with me. God showed me some scenes. I saw images come to me of things that had always been a source of pain for me. I saw scenes of myself being abused by my father when I was a child, and I felt that helplessness. Then I saw the experience of being bullied by other students at school, and the teasing and bullying made me feel depressed. These memories made me feel depressed, and I began to question my worth and the meaning of my life. God told me to take a closer look at my surroundings. I found an angel by my side in all of these painful scenes. God told me that this angel had always been there for me and had never left me. He is my guardian angel. I understood that God's love transcended all the pain I was experiencing. He let me know that one day I would return to my true home and meet Him again. In that moment, I will be truly comforted and all my pain will be healed. I had a very long conversation with God. During this time, God showed me my future life and filled me with hope and faith in the future. I saw my future and realized it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I saw myself having a fulfilling and meaningful life. I see myself spending quality time with the people I love, with family relationships that are harmonious and warm. These sights give me hope that no matter what difficulties and challenges I encounter in my life's journey, God will be with me and guide me to a better future. He made me understand that He has paved the way for me and that everything will go smoothly as long as I keep my faith and courage. He encouraged me not to give up and to persevere in the pursuit of the goodness within. After saying goodbye to God, the angel took me out of heaven. We began to descend gradually, and I could feel the touch of the air around me and the gravitational pull of the earth. I returned to my body. I felt the warmth of my body and my consciousness reunited with my physical body. It was a bit of a wonderful feeling, like being back in a familiar and fresh place again. I could hear the sounds of my surroundings and feel the weight and touch of my body. I can hear the chirping of birds. These sounds are full of life and vitality and make me feel the beauty of life deeply. I opened my eyes and found myself lying in bed, surrounded by my familiar bedroom. My favorite pictures were hanging on the walls, making me feel very close to them. The light shining through the window made me feel very warm. I took a deep breath. I realized that this experience was not just a dream, but a real and amazing journey. When I was asked if I believed in God, my answer was yes. I am grateful for the guidance and love given to me by the angels and God, and for that precious experience and revelation. This experience has given me a deeper understanding of God's love. He gave me endless courage and hope. When I returned to the real world, I could still feel God's love. I knew that God was silently supporting me, which made me feel incredibly happy and at ease. This experience also made me believe more strongly in my faith. God's presence does not need to be seen through the eyes, but is perceived through the heart. He is the creator of everything, and each of us is His child, and His love for us is unconditional.